So I have quite an array of camping stoves of all different types, but more importantly the fuel that goes with it and its sustainability for the same volume as, say, a gas cylinder. So it's the reality of these tiny little stoves that you see all over YouTube. Look how small my setup is, look how light it is, and they don't incorporate the weight or size of a fuel bottle any more than a tiny little bottle at best will do 2 or 3 burns. Now, I'm not going to advocate one set of stoves over another and try and sway you in a direction you're not comfortable in going. It is just a real life look at what is out there available, and then you can make your own mind up. But there is a lot of confusion over these little stoves, and I'll give you an example right now. This might be somebody's YouTube video. Look how small my stove is. Now that is one of my stoves, and yes, it is small and it's light, really light, compact. Doesn't need a pot stand. You can make them at home for free. And you might also see a bottle like this. Look how small my system is now. Well, in reality, this size of fuel bottle, which is 50ml, let's put it down here for comparison. There's 50ml for you. We'll run that at best twice, 2 boils, 1, 2. So 2 cups of tea, maybe 3 if you're lucky. Or if you're doing a meal, it's going to be 1 meal and 1 cup of tea. So if I'm bringing this just to make a cup of tea or 2, then I may as well just bring a 1 litre thermos flask of coffee and put it in my backpack. That's my reasoning. For a more successful camp for a longer period of time, like a weekend, where you're actually using your stove, not just getting it out once or twice in that one day. So you might be camping overnight or for a couple of nights, and you want about 25 boils. This is the bottle size you're actually going to need. There's 500ml here. Each boil takes about 20ml. So let's work that out. 20ml to a boil in the summer. It's more like 30 in winter. But let's err on the side of fairness. 20ml. That is 5 boils per 100ml. So 500ml here is 5 5's 25 boils. That's a good long weekend. That'll give you 3-4 days. But the thing I've heard most in the comments is that people don't like canister stoves, and I'll just dig in the pack, put one in. I'm sure here's one. Let's put that into a comparison. Now there are 16 boils to the can. So if I want an equal amount of boils from my liquid, with that being 16 boils, and I'm using 20ml, that's, let me see, 320 millilitres of fuel, and this is 500, so it's going to be about 2/3 that size bottle you're going to need. It's very misleading watching videos telling you that that is going to get them through a long weekend, and somebody did argue that in the comments, and once questioned, I found out he wasn't even using it. You know, he said he was only bringing it out once or twice in that one day and then going home. 2 boils, in other words, for his camp. Well, I'd like more food, hot food in the day than that, and I certainly like more warm drinks on the cold day than just getting my stove out twice in one day, which is what that would amount to, just 2 or 3 times in your day. Okay, let's have a look at something else, something gas related, and then we'll put everything into a size comparison and a weight comparison. That is 16 boils to the can. Now I've had more, but I'm going to be overly cautious and just tell you 16. Not an unsimilar size to the liquid fuel 500ml bottle. It's a 500ml bottle there. So butane, about the same amount of boils, about 16 boils, which is less than that and many times more than that. But that is lighter, being gas, than this is, being liquid. Now again, it's very misleading of people to say, look at my tiny little stove and how light it is, when they don't take into account a whole weekend's worth of fuel. So let's marry this butane with a stove. Let's have a look at this. That is a stove that fits this here, and there's a little adapter that goes with it. Let's put that into a comparison. Now you can see there's not a hell of a lot in it when you consider the amount of fuel you actually get, and for the value of that, perhaps I'd be better off with a thermos flask, one with hot food in, the other with a litre of coffee in, and then I haven't got to burn and boil anything. Okay, so we're getting down to some nitty gritty here. 16 boils I'm gonna get for that. I need a stove for it. Now I think, yeah, I could use that. I might have something a little smaller than that. And look at that. This is the BRS. I'm gonna have to put it close up to the lens there. Tiny, lightweight, and when put into conjunction with 16 boils per can, that is the size. And again, gas is lighter than liquid fuel. I'm going to quickly have a look at the size comparisons with your stoves here. Using 16 boils, that will give 4, 8 to 8, 16, 4 days camp at 4 burns a day. Butane and a stove for it, that'll give 16 burns, long weekend. The reality of liquid fuel is going to be a similar size bottle to this, maybe 2/3. Maybe I could cover up the top third and give an idea of what you're up to there, but certainly best by far in size is this here. 16 burns of gas and the stove to go with it. If we're looking at size only, and yes, I could say look how small my stove is, but it's bugger all any good without enough fuel for it, and in my opinion that is just not enough fuel for a long weekend. I'm going to put them all side by side, and then we'll come to the final thing, which is the biggest of all, which incorporates a pot, the fuel, 16 burns of fuel, and a stove, and put them into comparison. So there is the reality of 16 burns, or 16 boils. That is its size. Sure, this is the smallest stove, but it's useless without the fuel. So they're more equally sized here, liquid and butane, in reality. And by far, for the size, for 16 burns, is going to be a micro stove and the gas. Okay, now look at the size comparisons between your liquid fuel, your butane, isoprop and isoprop with the jet boil. And remember, that does include a pot with that. So let's include a pot with these here. This pot fits the gas in nicely and the stove. That is the size of that cook system. The butane and the pot and the stove is actually bigger than the jet boil set. So in reality, there's not a lot of saving getting yourself a box stove like that. There's not a lot of saving in the volume. So we know that. You can make a choice now. There is the reality of your 16 burns for using your little stove like that. These little Bex stoves are easy to make, and I'm going to fire this up actually and get a cup of tea on the go, and we'll have a quick chat. But that is the reality of a long weekend and the amount of fuel you're going to need. By far, this here is the most compact. So just time to put a quick brew on, and then we'll come to our final verdict. Now I do know what 20mm looks like in my little Bex stove, which that is just enough for 1 cup, and you can see that's taken about a third. So at best you're going to get 3 boils out of something that big, which is 50mm. I'm only going to do about 250ml a boil here. By far this stove is a lot better than anything else I've tried, including the Trangia, which is a BS stove for me. I like just how fast this actually fires up. There's no bloom wait time with that. A windshield would have been nice. And of course water boils quicker with the lid on. That's 20ml, and it's just gone out before it could reach a boil. That's why I say 30ml is going to be better to get it into a rolling boil. Okay, lost some of the footage there, so I'm back home just for some final thoughts. Now, the little stoves that require the liquid fuel, I think are great. I really do like them. I like using them. And I've got another down here, which is like a little penny stove. And they're both great. If I only have enough fuel for maybe 2-3 burns, I could use a food flask, pre-prepare some food at home, and I could use a drinks flask. And them two, I don't need to have any liquid fuel in the pack at all. Is it as much fun just putting food in that than it is using that? Of course not. These are a lot of fun. Unfortunately, once you step up the fuel amount here to a long weekend, about 4, maybe 5 burns a day, you're looking at a lot more than just that little bottle there. Do I like using these little bottles and little stoves? Love it. Is it practical? No. For stoves that go with the gas cylinders like this, I really like on multi-day hikes. Why? Because these are accessible, as where these little canisters here are not so accessible. Usually trip duration will dictate the fuel and how many times per day you're going to use your stove. If all you're going to do is have one heat up one meal and have one drink, that's the fella for you. They're all good stoves. It's just a matter of personal preference, and for me it has to be practical. Until next time, take care of yourself and I'll see you soon.